You know, she's trying to do the right thing at all times. How do you describe her?
I would say that she is a woman who has looked at the system and decided that she can change it from within.
Yeah.
I think so many times we get bogged down by the problem. And she decided, you know how I can do that? I can go and become a deputy district attorney, not a defense lawyer.
Yeah.
I can be the person who decides if someone gets sentenced and how much they get sentenced, which for me was so informative. And then that track to then become a judge and say, and now I can determine who goes to jail, who doesn't, and how that happens. And so she is a superhero because she's fighting against a system that's like, let's just keep it moving.
Yeah.
Every time you take the time to look at somebody's case, you're slowing down the process. And so she's a disruptor. She wears a different kind of cape. It's a robe.
Yeah.
But I think she is a superhero.
I love that. All right. Well, you can catch season 2 of Altered Carbon streaming Thursday on Netflix and All Rise tonight at 9 p.m. on CBS. Simone, great to have you here. Congrats on everything.
So great always to be here, ladies.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm David Usher here along with our senior investigative reporter, Jonathan Deans, because just a short time ago, the jury in the Harvey Weinstein rape trial sent word that it has reached a verdict. This is the latest, most monumental development in a saga that really started in the fall of 2017 with published articles and went along in the criminal justice system. And now a jury, after deliberating here 18 days, I believe, Jonathan, has reached a verdict. We're going to get to Jonathan for his analysis. First, though, we're going to head down to Sarah Wallace, who is at the courthouse. Sarah?
And David, we are just getting word from inside the courtroom that Harvey Weinstein has been found guilty of count 2, which is a predatory act. He has also been found guilty of rape in the 3rd degree. These are charges that involve Jessica Mann. She said that, excuse me, let me go back here. Rape in the 3rd degree, count 2. Sorry, criminal act. I take that back. Sorry, criminal act in the 1st degree. That's Mimi Haley. And rape in the 3rd degree, Jessica Mann guilty. So let me go back over this. Sorry. Predatory sex assault, counts 1 and 3. Those were the most serious. We're hearing not guilty. Count 2, criminal sex act in the 1st degree. That's Mimi Haley. She was the former production assistant who said she had sex forced on her in 2006. Guilty of that charge. Not guilty on rape in the 1st degree against Jessica Mann. She is the actress who said that she was raped in 2013. And guilty on rape in the 3rd degree. What's really significant here is that he has been found guilty of predatory sex assault that was also involving the actress Annabella Sciorra. What is significant is that that count requires a mandatory minimum of 25 years in prison, maximum life in prison. So at this point, Harvey Weinstein is going to go away for the rest of his life. David?
Special report. Here's Kate Snow.
Good day, everyone. We're coming on the air with breaking news. A verdict reached in the closely watched trial of Harvey Weinstein, the once powerful Hollywood producer who was charged with 5 felony counts of predatory, criminal sexual assault and rape, charges that carry a potential penalty of life in prison. The jury, 7 men and 5 women, have just returned their verdict in a New York City courtroom. That's where Stephanie Gosk is. Stephanie, what do we know?
Well, Kate, Harvey Weinstein has been found guilty of first-degree criminal sexual acts. He's also found guilty of 3rd-degree rape. He has not been found guilty. He is not guilty on the most serious charges in this case, predatory sexual assault. These are the charges that could have carried a sentence of 25 years to life. But this 1st-degree charge of sexual assault does carry a maximum sentence of up to 25 years. As you know, he's 67 years old. Carrying that kind of sentence would bring him to 92 years old. But again, very important here, he was not convicted on the 2 most serious charges of predatory sexual.
A crime, even though they had maintained, Jonathan, some contact and relationships after the alleged crime.
Right. And he's also, according to Erica Byfield, our reporter who's in the courtroom, also guilty for the sex assault on Jessica Mann. So the 2 specific most recent incidents.
Right.
Jessica Mann, who said that she was raped inside a Manhattan hotel room in 2013, the jury finding Weinstein guilty. On Miriam Haley, the production assistant, who says in 2006 she was forced to engage in an oral sex act, guilty. All the other counts, not guilty, according to Erica, our reporters who are in the courtroom right now.
All right, so let's process. Not guilty on the two most serious charges, but still potential jail time here. Sarah Wallace, we want to get back out to you as you've had more time to look at this.
Yes, absolutely, David. And you and Jonathan talking about, so let me correct that. Yeah, criminal sex act in the first degree. So he is guilty of that one. That sentence, possible sentence, is 5 to 25 years. The rape in the third degree, Jessica Mann, that is a count that is up to 1 to 4 years. So again, to correct that, not a predatory rape charge or a significant predatory charge, but nevertheless, he is looking at a possible sentence of 5 to 25 years in prison for the most serious criminal act in the first degree. And what we understand from this judge is that he will likely remand Harvey Weinstein. He is a very tough judge. He's a former prosecutor. So expect that we probably will not see Harvey Weinstein come out of court here. I do understand that his attorneys are preparing to go to the appellate division at some point and ask for a possible leave to appeal. That depends on that would be before sentencing. We don't know about that. But at this point, it is unlikely that we are going to see Harvey Weinstein walk out of here from court on those most serious charge. Again, we're talking about criminal act in the first degree and rape in the fifth degree.
All right, Sarah, thank you. We're going to get some legal analysis, but we remember, Jonathan, that on Friday, this jury sent a note that everyone tried to parse, indicating that they were wrestling probably with the two most serious charges, which require them to believe Annabelle Shora, the actress most recently known for The Sopranos, along with Miriam Haley and along with Jessica Mann.
Right. So basically, by saying that we'd reached a unanimous verdict, it appeared that they had come to a decision regarding the allegations of the two women of the two specific charges regarding specific acts that they could charge due to statute of limitation. Jessica Mann, Miriam Haley. They found that guilty. The next step from there was this predatory sex act charge, which means you have to find them guilty of those first counts, and then if you do, does it show he was a repeat offender, repeatedly attacking women over the years, over the decades. Right. They decided not to convict on that more serious predatory count. But again, as Sarah was explaining, two guilty verdicts, two counts, which carry anywhere from 5 to 20 years of a max. We are expecting to hear from DA Vance and the prosecution team shortly to give their reaction to the verdict, and then perhaps from the defense outside 100 Center Street to give their take. But again, Harvey Weinstein found guilty on two counts.
All right, let's get some legal perspective on this. Michael Bachner has been kind of guiding us through our coverage, and he's standing by now. Michael, David Ushery along with Jonathan Deist here with you. Let me just get your first read on this verdict. I know on Friday you were kind of giving an assessment based on what the note said, but now that we have some clarity from the jury, give us your take.
Well, it seems pretty clear that the jury was hung regarding the Annabelle Shora matter. They could not decide and decided ultimately that the case was not proved beyond a reasonable doubt and hence could not convict of the predatory assault charges, which was the most serious charge in the case. However, they did conclude that the evidence was sufficient to prove guilt as to the two lesser charges, even though they're fairly significant. There's a potential exposure of up to 20 years in connection with the sexual assault charge in the first degree, and on the rape in the third degree, there certainly also is a state prison sentence exposure. So even though Mr. Weinstein and his defense team did a very nice job in defending on the top counts, there's no dispute that Mr. Weinstein is looking at a very serious state prison sentence.
In your observing of this trial, did those emails where the victims wrote to Harvey Weinstein saying we want to continue that relationship, how big a play do you think those came in terms of the jury weighing that factor, and how good a job did the defense do using those documents?
Well, I think the defense did a wonderful job in using what evidence they had here. And in addition, it was very clear that with Ms. Shora, they just had a very serious problem with the fact that the relationship was ongoing. There was the issue regarding Mr. Felchin, who testified that Ms. Shora appeared to be fairly amicable with Mr. Weinstein, the failure to complain after a long period of time. And at the end of the day, there was just a decision that Ms. Shora's testimony simply was not credible enough to convict beyond a reasonable doubt. And look, when you have these ongoing relationships with people where you continue to send friendly emails, there's a very distinct argument to be made that if this was not Harvey Weinstein, this case probably never would have made it to a jury at all. But given all of the attention and given all of the other women who have complained that were not part of this trial, the DA's office really had no choice but to bring these criminal charges. And look, ultimately, the jury did conclude that Mr. Weinstein is guilty of the offenses beyond a reasonable doubt. And certainly the evidence was there to convict him. The emails were certainly important, and the relationships, the ongoing relationships, were evidence that were used in a very dramatic way by the defense to beat the top counts. Ultimately, I think the prosecutor's argument that why are these women here and why would they be telling these stories and subjecting themselves to this type of cross-examination and this type of potential humiliation, for what reason other than the fact that they are credible? But look, we have to hand it to the jury. They weighed this very, very carefully, and the arguments by the defense that they couldn't get a fair trial because of the venue issues seem to have been ultimately disputed by this jury, who acquitted after weighing all of this very, very serious evidence in connection with the top counts.
Michael, stand by for us. Michael Bachner, our legal analyst on this. A jury of 7 men, 5 women. They deliberated 18 days. Let's get back out to Sarah Wallace, who's at the courthouse as these developments unfold. Sarah?
Well, and David, you all were discussing the fact that he has been found not guilty on the 2 top counts. It will be interesting to see what the district attorney says later on, whether or not he announces that they may try to retry on those counts at a subsequent date, or whether or not they just accept the verdict, the standalone verdict of the lesser but still very serious charges. We are expecting the jury to be dismissed at some point, unclear as to whether or not they are going to speak to the media. Obviously, everybody is very interested in how they came to those deliberations. Michael was talking about how thoughtful they were from the very first day they were. They sent in a note 45 minutes after they started deliberating, asking for more information. They've asked for readbacks. They've asked for a clarification on legal definitions. So this, again, a very thoughtful jury, 7 men, 5 women. We are watching right now to see who comes out. Gloria Allred has been in court. As you know, the district attorney himself has been in court for most of this trial, so it will be interesting as to what they say and the defense as well.
Indeed, Sarah, we will check back with you. Let me clarify on my numbers. As Jonathan points out, the jury has deliberated for 5 days. This has been a process that started in late January, about 22 days with this whole proceeding. And Jonathan, let's talk a little bit about, there was a lot of pressure on Cy Vance, the Manhattan prosecutor, on this. There have been a number of other high-profile sex crimes alleged, and he's been taking criticism for him. So he was in court almost every day for this.
Yeah, and we expect to hear from him shortly to describe. I mean, it was a bit of an uphill climb for the DA's office in a case like this. You heard Mr. Bachner explaining that the evidence was there, but you're going back years. You're talking about questions because the women continued these relationships, but in the end, the jury believed the victims. They took the stand, they told their stories, and because of apparently the repetitive nature of the allegations, they believed the victims, Jessica Mann and Miriam Haley, to say that yes, Harvey Weinstein engaged in these acts, but it was this was not going to be an easy case to build. I think going in, they had their concerns whether they could win. You can remember the Dominic Strauss-Kahn case from several years ago. That did not end well for the DA's office.
Allegations from a hotel housekeeper that he had assaulted her. Yeah.
Right. So that there's been this record, but this, for the prosecutors, they believe they've brought justice to the victims of Harvey Weinstein. He is now facing a prison sentence. For the defense side, you heard Mr. Bachner saying that he believed this defense team did a very good job. I think one of the questions for Harvey Weinstein will be, did he make a mistake not keeping Ben Brafman on his defense team? He is a superb defense lawyer, and they parted ways as he had fought to hammer on those emails and get them out in the public and use them for this defense. Did the defense make enough of them? Regardless, that could be Monday morning quarterbacking, but nonetheless, one question's about Ben Brafman being one of the lead defense attorneys, whether that would have made any difference in the defense of Harvey Weinstein moving forward. The defense team came under criticism of late because of that op-ed in the Newsweek while the jury was deliberating, calling for the jury to reach a not guilty verdict, which raised a whole bunch of questions for the judge, and whether that would rub the jury the wrong way if they heard about it. So lots of questions, but in the end, he's convicted of 2 counts, and apparently will go straight to prison. We're waiting for word what happens next from the reporters in the courtroom, but it was anticipated if Weinstein was found guilty that he would be remanded, that he would not be released. But
in part because there had been an issue with his monitoring bracelet along the way. I mean, they've already raised some, suspicions about that. He also faces pending charges in L.A. We'll sort through that in a while, but we want to get back to Sarah Wallace down to the courthouse with this word of guilty verdicts on 2 counts, Sarah, just to say criminal sexual act in the 1st degree against Miriam Haley and rape in the 3rd degree against Jessica Mann.
Right, David and Jonathan, we are now hearing also directly from the courtroom, and our Reporters Insider telling us that Weinstein appeared to make contact with each juror as they said yes on the verdict, and post to the verdict, he appears to be looking straight ahead, talking to his attorneys on occasion. The question, of course, at some point during sentencing will be whether or not the judge gives some leeway here on that potential 5 to 25-year sentence, and whether or not Weinstein could actually be sentenced to something like 10 years in prison, which means that he would be 77 at the time that he were to get out. Again, Jonathan, you're talking about the fact that this was a very high-stakes prosecution for the District Attorney Vance. I think he will look at this as a win, although they didn't get the 2 top predatory counts. But for him, he's going to say, which you remarked about, that the jury seemed to agree with the victims, that they did believe the victims when they told their story, that one who said that she had been forcibly acted upon in 2006, the other one who said that she was raped in 2013. Those were very compelling stories that he will say that the jury believed, and this is a very significant win for him if he wants to play it that way and against the predatory sex counts.
Indeed. And, you know, this was informed, so we understand from legal analysts, perhaps by the prosecution of Bill Cosby, Jonathan, where he had an initial trial and there was one essential witness in that one, and it was a hung jury, and then they came back with this kind of so-called prior bad acts where they couldn't accuse him or charge him or try him on certain things, but did bring up a behavior to establish this kind of pattern, if you will.
All right, and I think the defense just tried to show, look, Harvey Weinstein, he's a bad guy. Harvey Weinstein, he treats women terribly. Harvey Weinstein made mistakes, and he acknowledges that. But in our view, he did not break the law. He did not commit any crimes, and that you have to be a courageous jury to stand up against this outside pressure and acquit this man. But they believe the 2 women who said, look, this man came into, assaulted us, attacked us, and they resulted in conviction, which faced a maximum of up to 25 years in prison. Dozens of women over the years have accused Harvey Weinstein of mistreatment, and we have a bit of a background regarding Harvey Weinstein and how we got here. At his trial, recent back surgery meant Weinstein was seen most days coming and going using a walker.
Harvey Weinstein!
But it was perhaps his perp walk back in May 2018 that most symbolized the movie mogul's downfall. The NYPD and Manhattan DA deciding to move forward with criminal charges. Mimi Haley alleges back in July 2006, Weinstein forced her to perform an oral sex act.
I told him no, no, no.
Jessica Mann alleges in March 2013, Weinstein overpowered her at this East Side hotel and raped her. Defense lawyers tried to raise doubt by saying both women continued to see Weinstein after the alleged incidents. Criminal charges surrounding claims made by a 3rd woman, Lucia Evans, that she too was forced to perform oral sex, those charges were dropped before the trial began.
Annabella, how do you feel about this morning?
But others, like Annabella Shora, were called to the stand. She said she was raped by Weinstein 25 years ago. While her incident not charged specifically, prosecutors trying to show Weinstein is a repeat predator who should be convicted of predatory sexual assault, a charge that carries up to life in prison. After years of rumors about Weinstein's behavior, in October 2017, some of the allegations hit the front page of the New York Times. Allegations that Weinstein had been abusing women, including demanding massages while standing naked. Ashley Judd was one who spoke out.
Time's up on harassment and hostile workplaces.
Weinstein apologized for his behavior, denying any criminality, and was quickly fired by his company. In days, The New Yorker would detail allegations from 13 more women. The so-called Me Too movement exploded. A stunning fall for the Hollywood mogul whose films won Oscars and who helped make some of Hollywood's biggest stars. One of them, Gwyneth Paltrow, soon spoke out as well. She joined dozens, a seemingly never-ending stream of allegations.
And then all of a sudden, let's go take a massage.
Yeah.
That's the move.
That was the move.
But the criminal investigation would take time, with the Manhattan DA pushing detectives for more hard evidence.
We have several complaints, and it's actively being investigated.
We'll move as fast as we can to resolve the outstanding issues.
Weinstein hired high-powered New York defense attorney Ben Brofman, but switched defense teams twice before trial, wanting a woman to help cross-examine the accusers taking the stand against him. And again, Harvey Weinstein found guilty of 2 counts, the jury believing the allegations, the charges brought by Jessica Mann, the aspiring